Alright folks, grab your snacks, it's story time. The anime kicks off in a royal chamber where we meet our genius protagonist Prince Wayne, a 16-year-old ruler of the Natra Kingdom. Sitting beside him is Ninam, his white-haired advisor and bodyguard, also known as the only person actually keeping the kingdom functional. In front of them, 4 high-ranking officials nervously deliver some totally great news. The emperor of the empire has died. Of course, that means every neighboring kingdom is about to go full Game of Thrones, fighting for the empty throne, but Wayne, he couldn't care less. While the officials panic about political chaos, he just shrugs it off and tells them to worry about nature's own problems. The officials, naturally, mistake this for wisdom instead of apathy, and walk away thinking their young prince is a visionary leader destined for greatness. And then, the door closes, and we meet the real Wayne. He immediately yells out in frustration, declaring he wants to sell his entire kingdom. Yes, you heard that right. The man's dream isn't glory or conquest, it's retirement. We then get a look at Natra itself, and wow, no wonder he wants out. The place is practically the continent's icebox, buried under endless winter with just a blink-and-you-miss-it spring. The land's barren, the mountains are rocky, and the soil's about as fertile as sandpaper. To top it off, the whole population barely hits 500. Basically, Wayne's trying to rule a frozen rock with no money, no resources, and no hope. Ninam, ever the responsible one, tells him to stop bitching around and act like a ruler. But Wayne just grumbles that he's only trying to make the kingdom look valuable enough to sell before running off to live a peaceful life. Truly, a king with priorities. Then his little sister, Philania, bursts in cheerful as ever to tell him their father's feeling better, and she wants to take him outside for some fresh air. Wayne immediately shuts her down, reminding her that the neighboring Marden kingdom is itching to attack them. A map pops up showing both kingdoms, and Wayne gives us the history lesson. Marden used to be friendly until they discovered gold, got rich, and immediately turned into corrupt expansionists. Classic. Now, Natra can't even afford to hire elite soldiers, just regular troops with big hearts and tiny wallets. Philania insists those troops would gladly fight to the death for Wayne, but he's too busy calculating war expenses to feel touched. When she grabs his hand and wishes him victory anyway, guilt finally kicks in. So, reluctantly, Wayne decides to lead his army to battle, though his real plan is to fight just enough to negotiate peace later and save money. Cut to the battlefield, a harsh, rocky desert where Wayne's 6,000 troops stand against Marden's 7,000. Not exactly great odds. Wayne delivers a short speech, trying to pump up his soldiers, and somehow, it works. The troops go from nervous wrecks to fired-up warriors. Meanwhile, the Marden general gives his own pep talk, and soon, the two sides clash. Wayne's strategy is simple: hold the line, then counterattack. As expected, Marden's forces rush the center, but shockingly, Wayne's troops actually hold their ground and start pushing back. Turns out, his earlier decision to send them for Empire-style training, which he did half-heartedly, is paying off big time. For a moment, it looks like Natra might actually win. But then, reality hits their inexperience shows, morale drops, and Marden's troops regain the upper hand. Seeing this, Wayne's general urges him to retreat, and Wayne immediately agrees. After all, dying isn't exactly profitable. Unfortunately, the Marden general overhears that the prince himself is on the field and decides this is his big chance to end the war fast. He personally leads a charge to take Wayne's head. But Wayne's not as clueless as he looks. He'd already guessed the enemy would try something like this and set up an ambush. Marden's general clearly don't watch anime, because you never charge a narrow canyon, there is always an ambush. Sure there is. From the cliffs above, Ninam commands a squad of archers, raining arrows down on the unsuspecting Marden troops. The enemy general is hit, and chaos erupts in their ranks. Ninam then personally charges in to finish the fight, offering the wounded Marden general a chance to surrender. You can see he is shitting his pants, but still, he refuses, so she ends things the old-fashioned way, with a clean beheading. And with that, Natra had actually won the war. Yeah, the kingdom that was broke, cold, and half-populated somehow came out on top. The next morning, Wayne and Ninam meet with the generals and royal officials to talk next steps. Naturally, Wayne doesn't feel like doing anything. He groans that his troops are exhausted, his head hurts, and all this victory stuff sounds like extra work for his lazy peach. But since he can't exactly admit that in front of everyone, he blurts out a totally absurd idea, hoping his advisors would shut him up, pack their bags and go home and he continue his life as a couch potato. Let's seize Martin's gold mine, he says. It was supposed to be a throwaway comment. Instead, they light up like it's the smartest thing anyone's ever said. Suddenly, everyone's praising him like he's a tactical genius. Poor Wayne just sits there, realizing he's trapped by his own brilliance. And, of course, the next day, they actually take the gold mine. Victory again. Wayne resigns himself to it and decides he might as well profit while he can. But just as he's starting to be hopeful about the whole situation, a miner rushes in with the worst possible news. The gold's almost gone. The mine's basically empty. Wayne freezes for a second, then that scheming little smirk appears. He decides to sell the mine back to the Martin Kingdom. You know, before they realize it's worthless. My man is genius. Ninam just sighs in moral despair, but as usual, ends up supporting his plan anyway. She does warn him though, that Martin might try to take it by force again, so they'd better reinforce defenses. And guess what? She's right. Martin soon sends a whopping 30,000 soldiers to reclaim the mine. Naitra has 5,000. I am not good at math, but that's not looking very good. Still, Wayne doesn't panic. He calmly crafts a strategy built entirely around defense. His logic? Martin's massive army will drain its food, funds, and morale faster than they can win. If Naitra can just hold out for a month, peace talks will come to them. Then the war over the mines begins, and against all odds, the advantage swings toward Naitra. The Martin general, Drawhood, can't believe what he's seeing. Wayne's using the terrain to his advantage, turning the rocky hills into fortresses. The only way Martin can attack is through a steep, narrow pass, basically a one-way death trap. Their army gets funneled and picked apart bit by bit. Wayne even prepared for a surprise attack from the back of the mountain. He has literally carved the cliff walls so no one could climb them. And because that's not enough torture for the enemy laid, Wayne decided to add some extra seasoning, a fake escape tunnel. Naturally, Martin's troops took the bait. They charged in for their big surprise attack. Too bad the only surprise waiting for them was a few tons of collapsing dirt. He's not done yet though. Wayne also sends out night squads to burn Martin's tents and stir chaos in their camp. This sleep-tight strategy works every single time. I'm taking notes in case I ever get isekai'd. General Drawhood is furious, but Wayne? He's chilling in his tent, sipping tea, watching everything unfold exactly as planned. 2 weeks in, Naitra's soldiers are still dunking on Martin's charges, winning every skirmish. Meanwhile, Martin's morale is destroyed. Wayne predicts they won't retreat, though not after spending that much money. And sure enough, General Drawhood sends his commander, Logan, to negotiate. Only, negotiate is generous. Logan shows up to threaten Wayne, demanding he abandon the mine and the real kicker, pay for all of Martin's war losses. Wayne is completely unfazed by this and smiles through the entire yap session of Logan. Then Logan makes a huge, massive, magnanimous mistake. He insults Ninam, calling her a descendant of slaves and saying Wayne doesn't deserve to stand beside someone lowborn. The air goes still. Wayne's smile doesn't fade, but you can practically see the fire in his eyes. Wayne lets him walk away, for now. Back at Martin's camp, General Drawhood's patience is gone. After 3 brutal weeks, he orders one final, all-out assault. But before it can even begin properly, a soldier stumbles into his tent carrying Logan's head. Drawhood barely has time to react before the soldier attacks, cutting down his guards. Then the helmet comes off, and surprise, it's Wayne. He'd slipped through the mountains using an old mining tunnel, bypassing the entire battlefield to strike at the heart of Martin's camp. Drawhood, stunned, realizes too late that he's been completely outplayed. Wayne looks him dead in the eye and says coldly, "That was for insulting Ninam," before finishing him off. With that, Naitra claims yet another victory. Later that night, the palace back home is alive with celebration. Music, food, and endless praise for their genius. Prints fill the halls. Wayne sits among the cheering officials, smiling like a hero, even though deep down he's probably just wondering how to sell this new country before it turns into more paperwork. Right after the grand celebration, Ninam pulls Wayne aside for a private talk. Not the one you were thinking about. She calmly reports that the Martin Kingdom's capital has just been taken over by another nation, and their king is dead. Wayne, ever the ambitious merchant prince, immediately slumps in defeat, not because of the tragedy, but because his plan to sell the gold mines to Martin just went up in flames. But before he can start whining, Ninam adds some good news. One of the miners discovered a new gold vein in the mines, enough to make up for all the war losses. Instantly, Wayne's mood does a complete 180. Business depression over, capitalism restored. Meanwhile, somewhere else, an Imperial ambassador named Brandel is digging through Wayne's records and she's shocked. Apparently, Wayne used to study at the Empire's prestigious military academy where he aced everything. Top marks, brilliant strategies, total prodigy. So why have we never heard about it? Because the Empire erased him. They literally crossed out his name from the record books. They couldn't handle the embarrassment of one of their own nobles getting outsmarted by a nobody, prince from a poor kingdom. Classy move. Time skips forward to Wayne dreaming about his old academy days. In the flashback, he and Ninam are having dinner with their friends, including a certain loud, blonde troublemaker named Lo, the kind of girl who mistakes detention for a challenge. She's always dragging people into her reckless antics, from busting smugglers to picking fights with bandits. Wayne, of course, tries to give her the classic, "The hell is wrong with you?" lecture, and she, of course, laughs it off. He wakes up in his study, a little nostalgic, a little confused. He tells Ninam about his dream, and they both wonder how their chaotic old friend is doing. Well, they're about to find out. Because that very day, the Imperial Princess herself is visiting the Naruto Kingdom, supposedly to discuss a political alliance. The Empire's in chaos, with its princes tearing each other apart for the empty throne, so it makes sense they'd want allies. But Ninam finds it strange. Instead of a prince, they're sending the princess. Soon, the royal entourage arrives. The palace gates open, and Wayne, Ninam, and Felania formally welcome the Imperial Princess, who's wearing a veil that hides half her face. The Imperial advisor steps forward and delivers a bombshell. They're here to propose an engagement between the princess and Prince Wayne. The entire room freezes. Wayne's brain blue screens. But before he can say a word, the princess removes her veil, and boom, it's Lo, his old academy friend. Cut to Wayne back in his study, pacing like a man who just stepped on a landmine. He's convinced it's a trap. There's no way this reckless girl he once knew is now an imperial princess. She used to claim she was just the daughter of some minor noble. Now she's offering an engagement? Something's definitely off. Later that evening, Wayne and Lo sit down for dinner. He tries to casually probe for her true intentions. Lo just smiles sweetly and says she's impressed by his genius in defeating Martin, though Wayne can tell she's full of it. Still, he senses she can't speak freely here, so he tells her he'll send her a gift. Later, warm winter clothes for nature's cold nights. When the gift arrives, Lo opens the massive chests in her room and out pop Wayne and Ninam. Because, of course, the gift was the friends we made along the way. The second they're alone, all the royal formality disappears, and they slip right back into their old academy banter. Lo's thrilled to see them again, cracking jokes and reminiscing until the laughter fades and she orders Brandel to guard the door. Then she drops the real reason for her visit. She wants Wayne's help overthrowing her three brothers so she can seize the throne herself. Yeah, same old Lo, still coming up with world-shaking plans like it's a fun weekend project. Wayne is instantly skeptical. He points out that Naruto going up against the Empire is basically suicide. But Lo insists the Empire is weak right now, divided by infighting, ripe for the taking. She says she's sick of watching her brothers ruin the country and wants to take the throne to fix it herself. Nobody in the Empire supports her, so she's turning to the only people she trusts, Wayne and Ninam. Wayne admits it's an interesting idea, in the same way lighting yourself on fire is interesting. But he's got a kingdom to run and can't afford to paint a giant target on his back. He politely refuses, and he and Ninam excuse themselves. Of course, knowing Lo, that's not the end of it. As they leave, you can tell she's already plotting her next move to drag him into her mess. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the palace, Felania's bodyguard, Nanaki, approaches Wayne and Ninam, worried about her princess. She says Felania's been acting strange lately. Ninam decides to check on her, and when she does, she finds Felania looking tense, upset, and definitely hiding something. Felania finally opens up to Ninam, confessing that ever since her brother Wayne took over running the kingdom, she's been feeling, well, kind of left behind. And now that Wayne might actually get married? Yeah, that fear's just doubled. But Ninam, being the ever-loyal voice of reason, reassures her that Wayne's feelings won't change just because he gets hitched. According to her, Felania will always be precious to him. basically untouchable in his heart. That seems to comfort Felania a little, until she flips the topic and asks Ninam what she thinks about Wayne's possible engagement. Because, honestly, she's convinced the most perfect partner for her brother would be Ninam herself. She even admits she's been secretly rooting for those two to end up together. But Ninam? She's way too self-aware for that kind of fantasy. She says someone like her, born from a slave clan, doesn't deserve to stand beside a royal prince. Still, she's content just being near him, calling herself the heart of his heart, always under his protection. That's tragic, sweet, and also kind of poetic. Sadly, Felania has no idea what that really means. Sensing the conversation's getting a little too emotional, Ninam quickly changes gears, pointing out that Felania's grades have been slipping lately. She suggests study sessions with Wayne. And, of course, Felania's face lights up like a kid at a festival. Later that evening, the story shifts to a hot spring. Because of course it does, we are watching an anime. We've got Lo, Ninam, and Brandel relaxing together, chatting about the past. Brandel gets curious and asks about Lo's history, and surprise surprise, turns out Lo used to be chased around by Prince Geralt from the Ankh-Kadal kingdom. Even now, the guy keeps sending her letters and gifts like some royal simp who doesn't understand boundaries. Lo's hoping that news of her engagement to Prince Wayne will finally make him give up. Meanwhile, Wayne's pulling a completely different kind of late-night session, helping Felania study history, and not just any history, the glorious backstabbing legacy of the Ankh-Kadal kingdom. According to Wayne, their former king was basically the continent's biggest bootlicker. Back when several kingdoms formed an alliance against the empire, Ankh-Kadal sold them out and sided with the enemy. Because of that betrayal, the empire crushed the alliance, executed every king involved, except the Ankh-Kadal ruler, who got promoted to Marquis for his troubles. Classy. Wayne continues, saying the current prince of Ankh-Kadal, Geralt, takes after his dear old disgusting loser dad. He's described as cheap, despotic, and utterly hopeless when it comes to military matters. And just as Wayne's wrapping up this little history roast, a soldier rushes in, reporting that illegal weapons have been found smuggled into the kingdom. The designs are new, definitely not made in Natra. Wayne immediately suspects this ties back to Lo's grand plan. We cut to Lo. She is lost in thought, reminiscing about her academy days. Back then, even without knowing she was an imperial princess, Wayne could always see through her problems. Lo always wanted to achieve something big, but her family constantly held her back because, you know, she's a woman. She was sick of it. Wayne once told her to fight that mindset, to challenge those old rotten traditions and prove her worth. Lo had smiled and asked if he'd help her when the time came. Wayne agreed, kind of reluctantly, but he did agree. Fast forward to the next morning. Sunlight streaming through Lo's window when Brandel barges in, announcing that Wayne has invited her for tea. Lo's instantly suspicious. Wayne isn't exactly a let's sip tea and chat about feelings type of guy. She figures he's fishing for information but goes anyway. During tea, Lo casually says she'll be returning to the Empire, since she failed to convince him to join her coup. But Wayne's not buying that for a second. He sees right through her act. He knows that with the three imperial princes fighting each other, rebellions from the occupied kingdoms are inevitable, and that Lo's real goal in coming to Natra was to stop those rebellions before they explode. Wayne connects the dots. Those contraband weapons weren't random. Lo had purchased them from the West to prepare for counter-rebellion operations. But the twist? The same arms dealers also sold equal stockpiles to each of the three princes, meaning their powers perfectly balanced, which means the Empire's civil war could drag on forever. That would give the subjugated kingdoms a chance to break free. Lo admits that's exactly what she'd warned her brothers about, but, of course, they ignored her. After all, she's just the incompetent little sister. That's why she's now desperate to prove herself by joining the power struggle for the throne. Wayne also realizes another reason. Lo came to Natra. It borders the Ankh-Kadal kingdom, one of the regions likely to rebel. He lays it all out in front of her. His deduction is so precise that Lo just sits there, stunned. She doesn't even bother denying it. Instead, she reveals her actual plan, to use herself as bait. If the rebels capture her, they could eliminate the three princes and seize the Empire's power. Her first target? You guessed it, the Ankh-Kadal kingdom. Since their prince, Geralt, is hopelessly obsessed with her, she's sure he'll attack Natra once he hears about her engagement to Wayne, meaning Wayne would have no choice but to get dragged into her war. But Wayne's no fool. He's already sent a letter to the Ankh-Kadal kingdom himself, announcing that the Imperial Princess will be passing through Natra and heading there next. His goal? To avoid war altogether. He's basically letting Lo handle her mess on her own without letting Natra become collateral damage. Lo smirks, confident that Geralt will still take the bait and attack Natra for her anyway. And right on cue, Ninam bursts into the room, completely panicked. She announces that Geralt, yes, the Prince of Ankadal himself, has just arrived at the palace and is demanding to see Wayne. Wayne rushes with Ninam to meet Prince Geralt, who, as it turns out, showed up personally at the Natra Kingdom just to pick up Lo. Apparently, the guy couldn't wait anymore. He even read Wayne's letter and decided, why wait for an invitation when you can barge in like a royal headache? Geralt demands to see Lo right away, but Wayne, ever the polite host, suggests he rest first. He promises a grand banquet to properly welcome both Geralt and Lo. The arrogant prince agrees immediately, clearly pleased with himself, while Wayne forces a diplomatic smile and probably questions all his life choices. The moment Geralt leaves, Wayne looks like he's about to lose it. He did not expect this guy to show up alone, without guards or tact. Ninam's already furious. Not only is Geralt acting like a jerk, but he's also completely disrespecting Wayne in his own palace. Wayne calmly tells her to chill out. Literally has her sit on his lap just to keep her temper down, and starts thinking of a plan. He realizes that Lo's probably trying to pit Natra and Ankadal against each other. But if she thinks he's going to play along, she's got another thing coming. Wayne decides to flip the game. Instead of falling for Lo's trap, he'll unite her with Geralt, maybe even get them married if that's what it takes. If Lo becomes Geralt's wife, she could influence him to stop his father's rebellion against the Empire. It's a crazy plan, but this is Wayne. Chaos is his comfort zone. Meanwhile, Lo's already figured out Wayne's intentions behind the upcoming banquet. She knows he's trying to manipulate her situation, but she's not exactly planning to let him win either. In fact, she's confident she can drag Wayne into her imperial mess one way or another. Cut to the grand dinner. The atmosphere is tense but formal. Wayne puts on his best fake smile and starts praising Geralt like he's the greatest man alive, like I do to please my teachers for grades. Then Wayne suggests that Geralt and Lo officially announce their marriage. Geralt, naturally, eats it up, chest puffed out like a proud peacock. But Lo? She just smiles sweetly and says she'll make the announcement if Wayne agrees to come with her to the Empire. A not-so-subtle attempt to pull him into her chaos. Geralt, slightly drunk and picking up on their chemistry, suddenly gets suspicious. He asks how the two know each other. Wayne calmly replies that Lo was a classmate from the military academy. Geralt, curious and competitive, presses further, asking what Wayne was like back then. Wayne humbly says he spent his time studying swordsmanship, just a simple student, nothing special. That modest answer somehow triggers Geralt's ego, and in his drunken pride, he challenges Wayne to a duel. Because, of course, that's what you do at a diplomatic dinner. Wayne, however, isn't scared of losing. He's scared of winning. If he beats Geralt, the prince's pride will be shattered and diplomacy will go down the drain. So he plans to make it a draw. Make Geralt look good while still saving face himself. The duel begins. Wayne carefully measures every move, matching Geralt's clumsy swings. His plan's perfect. Both of them get tired, both drop their swords at the same time, instant draw, everyone's happy. Except, fate has other plans. Right at the end, Geralt manages to trip over his own feet, yes, really, making it look like Wayne won. Wayne panics, drops his sword on purpose, trying to make it seem like a tie again. But Geralt, humiliated, suddenly lunges at him. Now Wayne's in a bind. If he actually fights back and Geralt gets hurt, it'll look bad for Natra. If he doesn't, he'll look weak. So he fakes a dodge, pretending it's an accident to protect Geralt's dignity. Too bad Geralt doesn't stop there. He keeps swinging wildly until... crash. He breaks through the balcony doors and falls right off the palace balcony. The whole room freezes. Everyone rushes to the railing in shock. Ninam immediately jumps down to check on him, only to confirm the worst. Geralt's dead. News of his death travels fast. Back in Ankadal, King Greenwich hears that Geralt's guards have been detained by Natra, and he instantly assumes foul play. To him, there's no doubt, Wayne and Lo must have been behind his son's death. Meanwhile, back in Natra, Wayne and Ninam are in full panic mode. Every plan they made just collapsed, literally. And now they're staring down the possibility of war with Ankadal. Then Lo shows up, calm as ever, saying she's giving up on taking the imperial throne. Instead, she wants to focus on stopping the rebellion, and she needs Wayne's help. Wayne, at his wit's end, reluctantly agrees. Together, they come up with a new plan: defeat Ankadal without triggering a full-scale war, just enough to make them admit the rebellion and back down. A few days later, Wayne personally travels to the Ankadal palace with only 4 bodyguards and Geralt's body. Bold move. King Greenwich is shocked to see him but also furious, demanding answers. Wayne calmly asks to speak in private, then drops the bombshell. He knows about Greenwich's plan to rebel, and Lo knows too. The king's rage immediately turns to fear. Wayne assures him he doesn't need to panic. After all, Geralt's already dead. That's when Greenwich realizes what Wayne's implying. Wayne's offering him a way out. Wayne suggests a cover story: blame everything on Geralt. Make him the scapegoat. Announce that Geralt was a traitor who plotted to overthrow his father and rebel against the Empire. Given Geralt's reputation, the story would be easy for everyone to believe. Then Wayne adds the conditions. If Greenwich goes along with this plan and hands over all the evidence of the rebellion, Lo will go easy on him. Just seize some royal income and call it even. But to make it official, Greenwich will need to publicly apologize to Lo in person back at Natra. Cornered and terrified, the king agrees to everything. Later that night, as Wayne and his small group head out to find an inn, the air suddenly goes quiet. Too quiet. Wayne immediately senses danger. Sure enough, a group of assassins ambushes them from the shadows. His guards leap into action, and a fight breaks out. But Wayne quickly notices something strange. The attackers aren't fighting like Ankadal soldiers. He dodges a spear strike and smirks, realizing what's really going on. The ambushers aren't sent by Greenwich at all, they're spies from the west. He tells his attacker exactly that, predicting that the West orchestrated the whole rebellion and used Greenwich as a pawn, and now they're cleaning up loose ends. The spear-wielding assassin looks shocked that Wayne figured it out so fast, but still keeps attacking. Too bad for him. Wayne was, of course, 10 steps ahead. He'd already planted his most trusted people inside Greenwich's palace, just in case things went sideways. And guess who was the one who delivered the Geralt's dead news to King Greenwich? None other than Nanaki, Felania's personal bodyguard and one of Wayne's secret operatives. Wayne had assigned her a double mission: protect the king from an assassination plot and secure any evidence of the rebellion before it conveniently disappeared. Sure enough, Wayne's prediction hits bullseye. 2 Western spies sneak into the palace, rummaging through the rooms to steal those same documents. Unfortunately for them, Nanaki's on duty. She ambushes them like a shadow out of nowhere and takes them both down with terrifying ease. So yeah, the evidence stays right where Wayne wants it. Meanwhile, outside the palace, Wayne's still locked in a fight with that spear-wielding assassin. The guy just got word that his teammates failed their little heist, and now he's furious, charging at Wayne in a rage. Bad idea. Wayne might be a schemer, but he's also a deadly fighter. He quickly slips a kunai from his sleeve and throws it mid-conversation, casually mentioning that it's coated with poison. Naturally, his enemy panics and dodges, completely losing focus. That's when Wayne moves in with lightning speed, slicing through the man's arm before he even knows what hit him. Outnumbered and outmatched, the Western spies retreat in chaos, leaving Wayne standing there like, "That's what I thought." But before he can relax, he hears the sound of horses, and not the friendly kind. Greenwich and his royal guards are storming in, weapons ready. One of Wayne's men mutters that it looks like the kings decided to break their agreement. Wayne just sighs and says, "Plan B, run." Of course, run doesn't mean flee helplessly. This is Wayne. His version of running includes leading Greenwich into a massive trap. As the king's forces chase him toward the border, they suddenly freeze in shock. Because right there, waiting, are hundreds of Natra soldiers, fully armed and ready. Wayne doesn't just run, he runs strategically. Later, Wayne, Lo, and Ninam regroup to break down the whole operation. Turns out Wayne had already calculated every possible outcome. His deal with Greenwich? Only a 50-50 chance of success. So, he kept his force small. Just enough to maneuver quickly if Greenwich tried anything shady. That way, if things went south, he could handle the situation without dragging Natra into a massive war. Then he takes it one step further, coordinating with Lo and the Imperial Army to arrest Greenwich directly. So when the Imperial troops show up, Greenwich realizes the game's over. Surrounded and humiliated, he's captured and dragged before Lo and the Imperial governor for judgment. In the audience hall, Greenwich looks absolutely terrified, scrambling for excuses. He even tries to shift the blame onto Wayne, claiming Wayne invaded Imperial territory by bringing Natra troops into the border zone. Desperate move. But before he can gloat, the Imperial governor shuts him down completely. He explains that the presence of Natra's soldiers was authorized. They were there for a joint training exercise with the Empire. Greenwich's jaw practically hits the floor. He can't even respond. Wayne had already predicted this exact accusation and preemptively had Ninam send a request for that joint training days earlier. Every angle covered, every move countered, the man's a living chessboard. Realizing there's no way out, Greenwich finally collapses in defeat and begs Princess Lo for mercy. The next day, back in Natra, Lo speaks privately with Ninam. She tells her she's decided to return to the Empire and, oh yeah, cancel her engagement to Wayne. Her reasoning? She believes she can influence the Empire more freely if she's single. Ninam, of course, isn't buying it. She asks if Lo actually has feelings for Wayne. Lo, blushing and flustered, immediately denies it, which only makes it more obvious. Eventually, she admits she does like Wayne, but she refuses to say why she's really breaking things off. Later, Lo meets Wayne one last time. She questions why he went through such an elaborate plan to take down Greenwich. Why not just kidnap and torture the guy like any normal schemer would? Wayne simply explains that breaking Greenwich's spirit is far more effective than breaking his bones. If Greenwich loses the will to rebel, Lo will have a much easier time ruling over him. That's when she realizes everything Wayne did, every dangerous move, every layer of the plan, was all to keep his promise to her back from their academy days. Lo finally leaves Natra feeling relieved, and the reason she cancelled her engagement becomes clear. She admires Wayne and Ninam's bond too much to come between them. She respects their relationship, a prince who genuinely trusts a woman the world looks down on. For now, she decides to grow stronger on her own terms. Time passes, and we see Wayne and Ninam heading toward the Cavern Kingdom, answering an invitation to attend the Spirit Festival, a grand religious event held every early spring. The Cavern Kingdom wants to strengthen ties with Natra, so of course they invited the genius prince himself. Wayne, however, isn't thrilled. He's uneasy about heading west, worried that some leftover Marden soldiers might still be hunting him. To make things worse, he's irritated that Ninam dyed her hair black, something she did to avoid the racism slaves often face in the West. She scolds Wayne to behave himself during their visit, and he, in a rare moment of humility, agrees. As they travel, one of his guards reports that they've reached the Natra mining zone. Wayne decides to stop by for an inspection, and thankfully, things seem to be running smoothly. Gold production's up, everything's on track, though he does frown a bit when he remembers that General Haggard recently retired. Without a strong leader guarding the mines, that could spell trouble down the road. He started getting reports that several Natra nobles were plotting a rebellion. And, as if that wasn't enough, somewhere else, a bunch of shady figures in robes were literally having a secret meeting about how to overthrow the Wayne family entirely. Their timing couldn't be more convenient. Wayne's heading out to the Cavern Kingdom, and old General Haggard just retired. In other words, Natra's defenses are wide open. Perfect moment for a coup, right? The next day, the rebels made their move. They sent an assassination squad to take Wayne out while he was en route to the Cavern Kingdom. The attackers managed to separate Wayne from his guards, leaving him with only Ninam for protection. Not ideal. But Wayne, being Wayne, didn't panic, he just started calculating. He quickly ordered Ninam to steer their carriage toward the old Marden Kingdom's remaining troops. His gamble? Maybe he could convince those ex-soldiers to help him out, and somehow, it worked. A group of Marden soldiers suddenly showed up and intercepted the assassins, forcing them to retreat. After the dust settled, Wayne introduced himself and requested to meet Prince Helmut, the leader of the surviving Marden forces. Soon, Wayne and Ninam were escorted to their hidden base, but instead of Helmut, they were greeted by his right-hand woman, Zeno. She told them Helmut couldn't meet anyone because he was severely ill. His face had been burned by Cavern Kingdom soldiers during their invasion of the Marden capital. As a result, the Marden troops held a serious grudge against the Cavern Kingdom. When Wayne mentioned he was actually on his way to the Cavern Kingdom, Zeno instantly pulled a sword on him. From her point of view, Natra allying with her enemy was basically treason. But Wayne, completely unfazed, offered her a deal. She should accompany him to the Cavern Kingdom instead. He suspected the same people who tried to assassinate him were connected to the Cavern Kingdom somehow. If he was right, he'd form an alliance with the Marden army. Plus, he told her there was going to be a major gathering of influential people there, a group called the Sacred Elite. It could be her golden ticket to finding powerful allies for Marden. After a brief moment of hesitation, Zeno agreed. Time skip. Wayne finally arrives in the Cavern Kingdom. He orders Ninam and Zeno to gather intel while he and his guards go meet the king, Ortolas. On his way though, Wayne runs into one of the cavern generals, a real piece of work, who calls him a scumbag prince right to his face. Wayne just ignores the insult because, frankly, he's used to worse. What does catch his attention though are the wounds on the general's soldiers, scars that match exactly where one of the assassins from yesterday had been injured. That's when Wayne quietly warns his guards to stay alert. Meanwhile, Zeno and Ninam are doing their own investigation in town. Suddenly, Zeno spots someone stepping off a carriage and immediately goes berserk, ready to kill him on the spot. Ninam barely stops her in time. Turns out, that man is Hanayome, a former Marden commander who betrayed his kingdom, allowing the Cavern army to take over their capital. Ninam understands Zeno's rage, but tells her to keep her emotions in check and plan her revenge wisely. Back at the palace, Wayne finally meets King Ortolas, who greets him with fake warmth and suspiciously polite smiles. Wayne can already tell the guy's hiding something. Then, Ortolas invites him to meet the Sacred Elite, the group of religious and political elites who basically run the Western nations behind the scenes. Apparently, Ortolas wants Wayne to join their ranks since he's descended from one of Levedia's ancient followers. Later, Wayne discusses the offer with Ninam. He admits he'll probably accept it, not because he's suddenly religious, but because it'll help him build connections in the West. Because let's be real, networking is just war with better wine. The next day, Wayne and Zeno meet one of the Sacred Elite members, Lady Koikimo. At first, everything seems cordial, until she lays down her condition for Wayne's membership. The Nature Kingdom must completely wipe out the remaining Marden army. Yeah, that army, the same one Zeno belongs to. Zeno's hand instantly goes to her sword, but Wayne stops her. He calmly says he'll think about it first. The classic, "let me manipulate you later" move. Elsewhere, Ninam continues her own spying. She secretly observes a meeting between General Lever and Hanayome, and by reading their lips, she realizes they're plotting a rebellion back in Natra. Meanwhile, the camera cuts to that Western spy we saw back during the Ankadal incident. Yeah, he's still alive, and surprise, he's working with Koikimo now. The two of them seem to be waiting for Wayne's next move, like it's the season finale of their favorite drama. The next day, back in Natra, little Felania is in her lesson learning about King Ortolas. Her teacher explains that Ortolas isn't just some local monarch, he's also one of the highest-ranking members of the Sacred Elite in the Levitian religion. The bad news? Cavern Kingdom's politics are a mess. Only nobles from royal bloodlines can become officials, and they're ridiculously racist toward commoners and slaves. In fact, it's tradition for some of them to literally slaughter slaves to prove their purity. Yeah, charming place. No wonder Felania looks horrified. Night falls, and Wayne holds a secret strategy meeting with Ninam and his guards. Ninam reports that General Levert and Hanayome are plotting to assassinate him soon, probably attacking the mansion where he's staying. Wayne calmly says he understands Levert's motives, but Ortolas's are much more dangerous. According to Wayne, Ortolas is after Natra's gold mines. The Cavern Kingdom's faith in him is slipping, and he's desperate to regain influence among the Sacred Elite. The problem for him is that Natra recently took control of the Marden gold mines, the very thing Ortolas wants. So, of course, he's furious. And naturally, Wayne's name ends up on the hit list. Later that night, Zeno visits Wayne privately. She tells him she wants to meet Ortolas face-to-face the next day, and judging by her tone, she's not going there to talk about peace. Zeno seemed to be losing hope. Everyone in the Cavern Kingdom hated the Marden people and wanted their kingdom erased from history. Wayne, ever the realist, started to suspect that Zeno might be planning to assassinate King Ortolas herself. But she quickly clarified, she wasn't after blood, at least not yet. She only wanted to earn Ortolas' trust and form an alliance between Marden and Natra. Wayne agreed, on one condition: she must promise not to kill Ortolas. He even lectured her, saying that brandishing a sword during a discussion is the act of a savage. Yeah, ironic words, considering what he's about to do next. The next day, the long-awaited meeting between Wayne and King Ortolas finally began. Ortoles arrived with none other than Hanayome, the traitor who sold out the Marden kingdom. The king seemed overjoyed to see Wayne so highly regarded by the sacred elite. In fact, he was so impressed that he proposed something wild, marrying Wayne to his own daughter. But just when you think this man couldn't be any worse, he admits that he doesn't even acknowledge his daughter anymore. Apparently, she wasn't intelligent enough to be his child. According to Ortoles, only his clever offspring are worthy of his name. Wayne smiled politely, but inside he was absolutely disgusted. And then Ortoles said the one thing that broke Wayne's composure entirely. With the same smug smile, he requested that Wayne send slaves, like Ninum, to be sacrificed in the Cavern Kingdom's ritual slaughter tradition. Wayne stayed silent at first, letting the words hang in the air. But once Ortoles finally stopped talking, Wayne's patience snapped. He stood up, walked over, and kicked the king square in the face. Without hesitation, he drew his sword and stabbed Ortoles through the chest, killing the king on the spot. Hanayome froze, horrified. Wayne turned to Zeno and gave her permission to finish unfinished business. Hanayome dropped to his knees, begging for mercy, but Zeno didn't hesitate for a second. She cut him down where he stood. Afterward, Wayne set the entire meeting hall on fire. He and his team, Ninum, Zeno, and the guards, fled the Cavern Kingdom on horseback. Outside, Ninum was furious. She scolded Wayne for acting recklessly, reminding him that he had just assassinated a sacred elite and a king. That meant Natra was now at war with the entire Cavern Kingdom and its allies. But Wayne stayed quiet. Before he could answer, one of his bodyguards interrupted with news. Evidence of Hanayome's betrayal had been sent out exactly as Wayne had ordered. Meanwhile, chaos erupted back in the Cavern Kingdom. Riots broke out across the capital. Commoners were burning noble estates and government buildings. Rumors spread like wildfire, claiming General Levert had assassinated King Ortoles in a coup attempt. Levert himself was completely blindsided by the rumor, wondering who would even start such a thing. But the truth soon surfaced. The evidence of Hanayome and Levert's betrayal had been delivered straight to Sacred Elite member Koikimo. Furious, she turned the narrative in Wayne's favor, ordering her followers to burn down corrupt officials' homes and throw the kingdom into further disarray. She also sent a message to Wayne. The Nacha rebel army was already waiting for him near the border. Trapped between rebellion and pursuit, Wayne needed a plan fast. He suggested taking a route through the mountains, but his guard warned that recent landslides made it impossible. Wayne thought for a moment, then smirked. Then, we'll make them think we took the mountain road. Meanwhile, General Levert was mobilizing his troops, following intel from his scouts. They reported finding discarded supplies along the main road, likely Wayne's trail. At first, Levert was confused. Why would Wayne not take the mountain route? When his men told him that path had collapsed, he ordered everyone to the main road instead. Some of his soldiers warned that it could be a trap, but Levert, being as arrogant as ever, brushed it off. Moments later, his entire column stumbled into a massive force, hundreds of soldiers with no visible flag or insignia. Panic spread immediately. Levert assumed these were Natra rebels lying in wait for Wayne. But before he could organize his defense, a cavalry unit struck from behind. His troops broke formation, chaos erupted, and they were forced to charge straight into the unidentified army ahead. In reality, the ambush was Wayne's doing. He and his men had been hiding in the mountain ruins all along. Zeno had already summoned the remaining Marden forces, who now hit Levert's army from behind. And just when the situation couldn't get worse for the rebels, another familiar figure entered the battlefield. General Haggard. Turns out, his retirement had been nothing but bait. Wayne had spread the rumor himself to lure out the traitorous Natra nobles. The result? A complete rout. Wayne's forces crushed both the Natra rebels and Levert's army in one sweeping victory. After the dust settled, Wayne returned triumphantly to Natra. There he received a special guest, Prince Marden. But when the guest removed their helmet, everyone was stunned. It wasn't a prince at all, it was Zeno. Her full name? Zenobia Marden, the first princess and only surviving heir of the Marden royal family. She revealed that, thanks to the deaths of Ortoles and Levert, she had successfully reclaimed the Marden capital. Zeno's visit to the Natra kingdom wasn't just a social call. She came to swear allegiance to Wayne and beg for protection under Natra's banner. Wayne, of course, nearly had a meltdown. With a sly smile, she told him she was just a helpless woman, unfit to rule a kingdom on her own. And just like that, Wang was cornered, once again, doomed by his inability to say no to complicated problems disguised as beautiful women. Time passed, and the scene shifted to the glittering imperial capital. Lo, one of the 4 imperial candidates, was seen discussing plans with the imperial mayor to hold a massive air conference, basically a high-stakes political summit. Among the guests of honor, a representative from the Nature Kingdom. After the meeting, Lo collapsed onto a sofa, clearly exhausted from politics. But her assistant, Brandel, teased her, saying she'd probably perk right up once the Natra delegation arrived, specifically Wayne. Lo just rolled her eyes, until she found out the representative wasn't Wayne at all. It was Falania, his younger sister. Meanwhile, back in Natra, Wayne wasn't exactly calm either. He was pacing, worrying about his little sister traveling abroad. The story rewinds a bit to show how it all happened. Wayne had originally been invited to the Empire's conference himself, but Natra was still recovering from the recent war. Leaving the kingdom now could be risky. Some officials argued he should go, but before the debate got too heated, Falania stood up and volunteered to go in his place. Everyone was stunned, but who's going to argue with a princess determined to prove herself? The next day, Falania and Ninam set off for the imperial capital. Along the way, Ninam briefed her on Lo's current situation. After stopping a rebellion, Lo had gained massive public support to become the next emperor. But she wasn't interested in power, at least, not directly. Since she lacked military backing, she formed her own faction called the Patriot Faction, made up of nobles and scholars who genuinely cared about the empire's future. Lo positioned herself as the selfless servant of the people, which, of course, only made her more popular. When Falania finally arrived at the grand imperial banquet, all eyes turned to her. The nobles were struck by her poise and beauty. Lo welcomed her warmly and introduced her to her 3 older brothers, the other imperial candidates. Ninam, however, wasn't smiling. She knew this kind of attention could get dangerous. The Natra Kingdom was supposed to stay neutral, not become a bargaining chip in the Empire's power struggle. One by one, Lo introduced the princes. First was Prince Manfred. Next was Prince Bardlock, the muscle of the family, and finally, the eldest, Prince Demetrio. Let's just say, not the brightest star in the imperial sky. Demetrio immediately underestimated Falania, openly mocking Natra for sending a child to represent their kingdom. Lo quickly stepped in, explaining that Natra was still recovering and Wayne was too busy managing state affairs. But that didn't stop Bardlock and Manfred from immediately competing for Falania's attention, not out of love of course, but because securing Natra's support would give them an edge in the throne race. Ninam, realizing where this was going, quietly leaned over and suggested Falania make a graceful exit. She then pulled Lo aside as an excuse to get out of the awkward situation. Once outside, Ninam praised Falania for handling herself so well, though she could tell the princess was still nervous. Falania admitted she was worried about disappointing Wayne, afraid she might make a mistake that would reflect poorly on him. Ninam reassured her, then left Nanaki to guard Falania while she went to confront Lo privately. During their talk, Lo finally came clean. She wanted the Natra Kingdom's official support in the Emperor's succession struggle. But Ninam stood her ground, firmly stating that Natra would remain neutral, as Wayne had ordered. The 2 women clashed, Lo's ambition versus Ninam's loyalty, and the tension between them was palpable. Meanwhile, the conference began. The 4 imperial heirs gathered in one room, their factions ready to test alliances and sharpen daggers behind polite smiles. The next morning, Falania toured the city with the imperial mayor and stopped by the People's Assembly, a place where representatives from every province debated imperial policy. She watched with fascination as the councillors argued passionately, realizing how much she still had to learn about leadership and diplomacy. Elsewhere, Demetrio was busy sulking. His brothers didn't respect him, his political clout was slipping, and now he couldn't stop thinking about that little princess from Natra who dared to ignore him. And because subtlety isn't really his strength, he barged into a meeting where Lo and Falania were present and, without warning, proposed marriage to Falania on the spot. The room went dead silent. Falania froze, her hands trembling, while Demetrio grinned like he'd just made the world's best business deal. He claimed their marriage would strengthen the ties between the Empire and Natra. But everyone in the room could smell the manipulation from a mile away. Falania tried to stay calm and said she needed time to think, but Demetrio pushed harder, demanding an answer immediately. Lo snapped at him, warning him not to force her, but he just waved her off, insisting that the marriage would benefit both kingdoms. His tone made it very clear that his intentions were anything but noble. But this time, Falania didn't back down. Drawing on everything she'd observed from the People's Assembly, she says she really appreciates his offer, but the royal family's marriage is a political matter and not something she can decide on her own. Demetrio was furious at being rejected and threatened to destroy Natra if he ever ascended the throne to become emperor. But suddenly, Wayne appeared, interrupting the heated exchange. At first, he didn't understand what was happening and merely intended to join the conversation. Only after Ninam discreetly handed him a small note did he realize what was going on. Understanding the situation, Wayne immediately began searching for a way out. Demetrio then demanded that Wayne make the final decision regarding his marriage proposal to Falania. Wayne paused briefly, then smiled. He had found a way to turn the tables. Calmly, he said he agreed to the marriage. Everyone was shocked, especially Falania. Wayne continued, saying that this union would undoubtedly strengthen the ties between the Empire and the Natra Kingdom. His words caught Demetrio completely off guard. However, Wayne didn't stop there. He quickly shifted the topic to his own engagement with Princess Lo, something that completely flipped the situation. Demetrio, who originally planned to use the marriage to exploit the Natra Kingdom, now realized that Wayne's engagement to a potential future empress would instead give Natra more influence than ever before. Demetrio's anger flared. He loudly declared that he would never allow Wayne's engagement with Lo. But Lo, ever composed, countered that he had no authority over her personal decisions. Wayne, having completely turned the confrontation around, ended the conversation with a diplomatic smile and an excuse that it was already too late to continue the discussion. After the princes and Lo exited, Falania immediately hugged Wayne, tears welling up in her eyes, thanking him for saving her from the humiliating situation earlier. Later that night, with Falania resting, Wayne sat with Ninam to discuss recent events. He mentioned that Natra's condition was stable for now, but he remained uneasy about the movements of the sacred elites, a mysterious group rumored to be plotting something dangerous in another nation. She then handed him a sealed letter from Lo. It was an invitation to meet her in secret later that night. When Wayne arrived at the meeting place, Lo was already waiting. She explained that the Imperial Conference held earlier had ended in failure, producing no results. She wanted Wayne's advice on how to proceed with her campaign for the Emperor's seat. Wayne, though exhausted, told her that she was already on the right path. Her popularity among the people would be her greatest weapon. Lo smiled faintly at his words, but warned that she still intended to involve both Wayne and Ninam in her struggle. Then she quietly left the meeting. The next morning, Prince Manfred received a report that Wayne had met with Lo the previous night. He praised Wayne's strategic genius but quickly revealed his true colors. He ordered his men to have Demetrio assassinate Wayne during their upcoming meeting. Manfred feared Wayne's intellect and influence could one day threaten his own ambitions to claim the imperial throne. The following day, Wayne and Ninam headed to Demetrio's residence for the arranged meeting. When they arrived, Demetrio greeted them with his usual arrogance. The servants brought out tea for everyone. Wayne, ever cautious, eyed the drink suspiciously and asked the maid to sip it first. The maid froze, stammering excuses. Wayne pressed harder. Before she could respond, Demetrio interrupted, calling Wayne rude and paranoid for distrusting his host. He grabbed his own cup and, to prove his point, drank it down in one gulp. Demetrio suddenly coughed up blood and collapsed. The maid who served the tea panicked and tried to flee. Nina moved to chase her, but Wayne stopped her, ordering her instead to find Demetrio's healer immediately. His safety comes first, he said firmly. He discussed the situation with Ninam. Demetrio had survived and returned to his domain, but his two brothers, Manfred and Bardlac, were already spreading rumors that the poisoning originated from meal stars. As tension rose, both princes mobilized their armies and surrounded meal stars with imperial forces. Lo and the city's mayor scrambled to stabilize the situation, while Wayne decided it was best to return to Natra before things spiraled into full-scale war. One of his bodyguards rushed in with alarming news. The Levatian army, bearing the flag of Cadmelia, was advancing toward meal stars. Their stated goal was to liberate the city from the Empire's oppression. Wayne was furious. He cursed Cadmelia for making the situation impossible. Ninam added that if a war erupted now, the local guards of meal stars would never be able to contain it. Overwhelmed by stress and fatigue, Wayne finally collapsed, losing consciousness. He was carried to bed, where Felania and Ninam stayed by his side. Worried for her brother's condition, Felania decided to act. She made her way to the People's Assembly, determined to speak on behalf of Natra and restore order. Inside, chaos reigned. Half the assembly wanted to side with the Levitian forces. Felania stepped to the center of the room and began her speech. Her voice, though trembling at first, grew steadier with each word. She urged the assembly to unite their hearts and choose the path that would best serve the people of Mealstars. "You are merchants," she said. "You know better than anyone that peace and trust are worth more than gold." As her words echoed through the hall, the noisy arguments ceased. All eyes turned to her, the young princess of Natra, who spoke not as a royal but as one of them. Those who had been rioting because of differing opinions were instantly silenced by Felania's words. Her speech, sincere and full of conviction, moved even those who had been shouting moments before. Meanwhile, Wayne regained consciousness. Seeing him awake, Ninam immediately threw her arms around him, tears falling as she begged him not to overexert himself anymore. Wayne gently comforted her, smiling weakly despite his pale face. A few moments later, Felania returned and rushed to his side. Wayne praised her extraordinary actions in the People's Assembly, how she had united the citizens while he lay unconscious. He then ordered her to continue giving speeches to motivate the residents of Mealstar City. Not only that, but under her leadership, 30,000 residents agreed to follow her and seek help from the Levatian army. On the other hand, Cadmelia was taken aback when she learned of their arrival. She didn't have enough supplies or shelter for the massive crowd of evacuees. But before she could think of a solution, Wayne appeared and offered his assistance. The next scene shows Cadmelia and King Gruye of the Saugus Kingdom at the head of the Levitian army. Thanks to their combined effort, the 30,000 residents of Mealstars successfully evacuated the city. Wayne, appointed by the mayor as the official representative of Mealstars, expressed his gratitude for their help. He then asked about their plans moving forward. Cadmelia stated that their next step was to deploy troops to drive out the Imperial Prince's forces and reclaim the city. But Wayne, ever the strategist, politely refused the offer. He said that they didn't want to burden Levatia any further. Instead, the citizens of Mealstars would retake their home by their own hands. He continued, proposing that they buy weapons and armor from Levetia at 3 times the normal price. Cadmelia was impressed by Wayne's words, though she decided to reject his offer, curious to see how far his genius could go without her aid. However, King Gruye immediately accepted, unable to resist the lure of profit. Known throughout the continent for his obsession with money, Gruye agreed wholeheartedly, leaving Cadmelia no choice but to comply. The following day, the citizens of Mealstars donned the battle gear provided by Levetia. They marched forward with renewed courage to confront the combined armies of the 2 imperial princes who had surrounded their city. From a hill overlooking the battlefield, Wayne and Lo watched the unfolding chaos. Wayne smirked as he noticed Bardlak's hesitation, that the time for negotiation has come. Soon after, a negotiation was arranged between the 2 imperial princes and the mayor of Mealstars. Wayne attended as the city's representative, and once again, his brilliance shone through. He began by addressing Bardlak and Manfred directly, claiming that he had uncovered the truth behind the assassination attempt on Demetrio. The room went silent. Wayne explained that only someone with intimate knowledge of Demetrio's guards and access to the Imperial Inner Circle could have pulled off such a plot. Then, with calm certainty, he named the culprit, Demetrio himself. Bardlak furrowed his brow, rejecting the accusation. Why would Demetrio try to kill himself? He demanded. Wayne's reply was sharp and calculated. Because he wanted to pit Mealstars against your forces. Once both sides were weakened, he would strike. The explanation struck home. Both Bardlak and Manfred realized Wayne's intent to frame Demetrio in a way that justified peace and removed any reason to attack Mealstars. The mayor of Mealstars then spoke up, stating that the city bore no ill will toward Bardlak or Manfred for surrounding them. In fact, they were even willing to offer compensation for the incident involving Demetrio. Manfred, who was actually the true culprit, clenched his fists. Wayne's claim effectively eliminated Demetrio as an imperial candidate. With no other option, both princes agreed to withdraw their forces. The war ended without further bloodshed, and the people of Mealstars returned to their homes. However, the aftermath was clear. the citizens had lost faith in the imperial princes. Their hearts now leaned toward Lo. The mayor later confided that Wayne's determination to help meal stars was not purely political. It was because Felania herself had fallen in love with the city and its system of governance. Back in the Nature Kingdom, Wayne appeared overjoyed. Their economy was booming, particularly in the export sector, thanks to new partnerships with meal stars. Ninam, however, expressed concern. She mentioned that the Martin Kingdom's economy was also growing rapidly. If its development continued unchecked, they might attempt to declare independence from Natra. She advised Wayne to seek even larger trading partners to prevent Natra from being left behind. Moments later, one of Wayne's bodyguards entered with a report. An invitation had arrived from King Gruya, inviting Wayne to visit the Salgast Kingdom. Wayne accepted, planning to stop by the Martin Kingdom first. Meanwhile, in Martin, Zenobia received word that Wayne was on his way. Her advisor speculated about his motives, perhaps to discuss the kingdom's future as a vassal of Natra. He went further, suggesting that Zenobia demand a reward for Martin's economic progress, which had helped strengthen Natra's economy as well. He suggested that she marry Wayne, thus binding their two nations permanently. Not long after, Wayne and Ninam were en route to Martin. When they finally arrived, Zenobia greeted him warmly. Wayne was caught off guard. She was dressed in alluring attire, completely unlike her usual demeanor. She entertained him at dinner, where she mentioned that the Delunio Kingdom had lodged protests regarding their export products. Zenobia explains that the Delunio Kingdom is basically a stuck-up, old-fashioned place that hates seeing anything foreign on their store shelves. Wayne, though, isn't too worried. He reminds her that so far, Delunio has only sent a polite protest letter, not an army. So yeah, maybe hold off on panicking. Then, with his trademark smirk, he jokes that honestly, he's been waiting for a different kind of letter. But dinner comes and goes, and, shockingly, no marriage talk. Wayne walks away annoyed, muttering to Ninam that surely she'll bring it up tomorrow during their little city tour. The next day, they meet again, but Zenobia's dressed not as the elegant ruler, but as her alter ego, Zeno, the confident military commander. Apparently, she's in serious mode today. She takes Wayne and Ninam on a tour of the city, eventually showing them a newly built bronze statue meant to symbolize peace and prosperity for her people. Wayne, ever the instigator, teases her a little, saying the Martin Kingdom seems so stable and prosperous it might even be ready to break free from Natra. Calmly, she says, Martin will continue to grow strong within Natra's rule. That answer alone reassures Wayne, at least she's not plotting rebellion. Later, the three of them relax in a city park, where Zenobia asks why Wayne always keeps himself a bit distant from his people. His response, though calm and logical, hits her hard. It reminds her how heavy the burden of leadership truly is. She starts to doubt herself, thinking she might not be worthy of someone like him after all. Then the peace shatters when Zenobia gets word that Sergus, the Prime Minister of Delunio, has arrived. Zenobia greets him, but he insists on speaking only to Wayne. That, of course, rubs her the wrong way. Still, Wayne shows up, all calm and diplomatic. Sergus launches into his lecture, accusing Natra of selling products that go against Levitia's sacred teachings. Wayne, keeping his poker face, pretends not to know what he's talking about, and brushes off the complaint with a smile. Sergus gets furious, realizing he's not being taken seriously, and storms off, but not before dropping the classic villain line, "I won't forget this insult." The next morning, Wayne and Ninam prepare to leave for the Salgast Kingdom. Zenobia sees them off, and Wayne warns her to stay alert. Sergus clearly isn't the type to just let things go. A short while later, they arrive at Biska, the Salgast capital, a gorgeous port city with ocean views straight out of a travel ad. King Gruye personally welcomes them and invites Wayne to a grand banquet. Soon enough, Gruye's servants lift his palanquin to carry him to the hall, because, apparently, walking is for peasants. Wayne, both amazed and mildly horrified, walks beside him. Still, Wayne's in good spirits. If Gruye invited him all the way here, it probably means he's interested in forming an alliance. That would be perfect. If Natra has Salgust as a partner, Delunio won't dare to mess with them again. At the banquet, Wayne is caught off guard by a girl with the same hair color as Gruye, his daughter, Torchilia. She's lively, friendly, and eager to meet Wayne, even explaining all the fancy dishes to him. Wayne tries to stay focused on his diplomatic mission, but the food is way too good. By the end, he's stuffed and annoyed at himself for getting distracted by the buffet instead of closing the deal. The next day, he tries again to meet Ryo and discuss business, but the king keeps dodging him. That night, Wayne starts getting suspicious. Maybe Ryo's planning to assassinate him? After all, there's no clear reason for inviting him here otherwise. Just in case, he tells Ninam to be ready to flee at any moment. Then, out of nowhere, Ryo sends word that he wants to talk, alone. Wayne braces for a trap, but when he arrives, he finds the king in surprisingly good spirits. Ryo even invites Ninam to sit down, despite knowing she's a slave. That alone throws Wayne off guard. Then the king casually admits he doesn't take Levisha's sacred teachings too seriously, they're just words in books to him. Hearing that, Wayne and Ninam finally relax. Ryo isn't the zealot they feared, he's actually refreshingly open-minded. Wayne seizes the moment and proposes a trade partnership between Natra and Salgust. Ryo agrees immediately and even lets Wayne head home, promising to send over the official details later. As Wayne and Ninam depart, the camera pans to reveal Sergus watching from the shadows. Back in Natra, Wayne finally returns home, probably ready for some peace and quiet, but nope, Ninam greets him with bad news. The Marden Kingdom is now at war with the Delunio Kingdom along their border. To make things worse, the much-promised cooperation letter from Salgust still hasn't arrived. That's when it hits him. Ryo totally played him. While Wayne was off sipping wine and eating fancy seafood in Salgust, Ryo used the distraction to help Delunio start a war. Not only is Marden under attack, but Delunio also has Salgust's full support. Soon after, Zenobia shows up, clearly embarrassed. She admits she's already sent an envoy to Delunio to beg for a peace treaty. She braces for Wayne's anger, but he just smiles, because of course he already has a plan. He tells her to keep calm, he'll flip the situation soon enough. Next thing you know, Wayne and Zenobia are heading straight into enemy territory, the Delunio Kingdom itself. Meanwhile, Ryo's army is already marching toward Natra. The man might look like a lazy, round king, but give him a spear and surprise, he's terrifying. He cuts through Natra's ambush like it's a morning workout. Still, even in victory, Ryo pauses, wondering what kind of crazy plan Wayne's cooking up this time. Cut back to Wayne and Zenobia, who finally arrive in Delunio and are welcomed by Sergus, that smug schemer. The peace talks begin, and Zenobia does her best. She even offers to return twice the disputed land just to stop the war. But Sergus rejects it instantly. Turns out his real goal isn't peace or land, it's power. He wants Salgust and Natra to destroy each other so he can rise up and join the sacred elite. Basically, he's trying to make Delunio the next holy kingdom and is even willing to hand his nation over to the church. Yeah, definitely stable leadership right there. Wayne lets Zenobia's attempt fail before casually stepping in. Then he drops his bombshell, literally a toxic one. He tells Sergus that all those fine imported clothes the people of Delunio love so much, yeah, the dyes are laced with slow-acting poison. The more they wear them, the closer they are to dying painful, mysterious deaths. Soon, rumors of a deadly plague will spread, and panic will tear Delunio apart from the inside. Sergus laughs it off until a servant bursts in with urgent news. Natra's troops have retreated, and Salgust's forces are advancing fast. Sergus panics, realizing that Wayne's refugee plan might actually be happening. And just as Wayne predicted, reports start pouring in. Delunio citizens are collapsing, poisoned by their new clothes. The room goes dead silent. Wayne smiles that polite, terrifying smile of his and says, "Oh, don't worry, I have the antidote." He then admits that Natra's army only retreated to make this entire lie look real. Sergus, completely cornered and mentally destroyed, finally cracks. He agrees to ally with Wayne and turn his troops against Salgust. Soon, Delunio's forces march to ambush Ryo's army from behind, while Natra's soldiers, who had been on the defensive, charge back into battle. Right on cue, Delunio's army crashes into Salgust's rear flank, while Natra surges forward from the front. Ryo actually laughed when he finally learned just how badly Wayne had outplayed him. But before he could even start his rampage, Wayne appeared at the top of a cliff. Ryo, of course, didn't care. He still had enough fight left to floor General Hagar. The man fought like a beast until Ninam stepped in. Out of nowhere, she leapt from behind Hagar, blade flashing, and in one clean strike, she cut down the giant king. Ryo collapsed, and just like that, the Salgust army lost its will to fight. Their retreat marked Natra's victory. Later, Wayne visited the defeated king, now a prisoner of Natra. But the sight that greeted him was Weird, to say the least. Gruye's once round body was now thin and frail. Turns out, the man literally deflates when he's injured or exhausted. Yeah, that's apparently a thing. Gruye, surprisingly calm, asked Wayne when his execution would be, but Wayne had no interest in killing him. Instead, he offered him a deal sign, a cooperation treaty between Salgost and Natra, and he could walk free. Gruye, stubborn as ever, refused. He said he'd rather die just to see Wayne struggle against Levitia's army later. Basically, he wanted his death to be one last headache for Wayne, but Gruye suddenly changed his tone. He said he'd sign the treaty. On one condition, Wayne had to reveal his true passion. Curious as ever, he wanted to know what really drives the man who keeps outsmarting everyone. Wayne agreed. Whatever he told Gruye made the king go pale for a moment, then burst into laughter. Sweating and shaking his head, Gruye finally signed the cooperation deal, still smiling in disbelief. The story then cuts to Wayne back in Natra, finally catching up on some much-needed sleep. Ninam watched him with a quiet smile, probably wondering how this man manages to survive his own genius. When he woke up, she delivered the bad news. Natra had suffered heavy losses from the war. The kingdom's image took a hit for fighting against someone tied to the Levitian church, which also caused a drop in the number of pilgrims passing through Marden. On top of that, all their profits were gone, spent covering the damage. Hearing all that, Wayne just slumped in frustration, muttering about selling the kingdom again, exactly like he did at the start of the story. And with that, the anime wraps up. Subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.